Hey coin collectors, and welcome DC Coin Channel, and this is DC, and this is the 1968 United States $quarter coin, the Washington quarter. Washington facing to the left, Liberty above his head, In God We Trust under his chin, in 1968 down here. This is a copper nickel clad copper coin. They changed over in 1965. Prior to that, it was a 90% silver coin, so if you're looking to get the silver ones, go to 1964 or earlier. The 1968 version of this coin was the lowest mintage ever for a Denver coin in the modern era. They only made about 101 million of these. And when you kind of consider what does that mean, what does 101 million mean? Well, in 1965, well, that's where it gets a little funny, right? In 1965, they made 1.8 million United States quarters. 1.8 million. But they didn't put a D or a P on them. They just made them general. They did that in 1965, 1966, 1967. No mint marks at all. When they went to reboot again in 1968, for some reason, they just didn't make as many at Denver. So in 1968, they made 220, almost 221 million at Philadelphia. And Philadelphia would be a no mint mark, right? 220 million at Philadelphia. And at Denver, they only made 101 million. Why did they do that? How did they do that? What was their deal? Well, the deal was that they put out so many in 65, 66, and 67 that they didn't really need to put out so many in 1968. The other deal was they were rebooting the dies. So because they hadn't used the dies in 1965, 1966, and 1967, they hadn't used any. They had to make some new dies. And here they are. And here's how they turned out. Just a mess. Look at this one. Compared to this one, you can at least read this one. And then here's one more that's kind of in the middle. I guess if we wanted to put them in a row, this is kind of how we look at them. Here's a D, clearly a D. There's a D and there's a D. These are all 1968s. So what are they worth? In this form, they're worth right here about 25 cents or the same amount as their face value. If you get this in a MS63 version, so MS63 is not greatest ever, but it's pretty darn good. This would be worth about $2. In an MS65 version, this would be worth between $6 and $8, depending on the mint mark. Did they make any special mint sets in 1968? Well, they actually made an S from San Francisco Mint. They made 3 million of those, and they're worth about $5. So if you want to get the most collectible one, the S is the most collectible, worth about $5. But if you get the D or the Philly in really, really good shape, MS65 shape, it's worth more than a Proof 65 San Francisco Mint. Now, something else happened in 1968, which was very interesting in terms of world coins, and that is that the United Kingdom decided to go to decimalization. However, they didn't fully go until 1971. So in 1968, to kind of as a precursor, they released two different decimalized coins. And what do I mean by decimalization? Well, in 1968, they still made the United Kingdom or the Great Britain halfpenny. And this, of course, is the Mary Gillick, the beautiful 29-year-old Queen Elizabeth II engraving. Queen Elizabeth took the throne in 1953 when she was 29 years old, or turning 29 years old, and that's when these were engraved. So you can see it says Elizabeth II, Dea Gratia, Regina, FD, Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen and Defender of the Faith. It's a smooth bronze coin. And look on the back of that, the golden hind. And when we look at it, we see the engraver's initials here. It says halfpenny 1967. This thing right here, there were 480 of these to the British pound. 480. I mean, it's unimaginable how you could make change for a British pound. In 1968, they said, we're going to move to decimalization, and we're going to bring this one out first. And guess what? This is going to be a 10 new pence coin, and it's going to be 10 to the pound. They also came out with a 5 new pence coin, and that's going to be 20 to the new decimalized pound. So there's a 5 new pence, a 10 new pence, and that replaced the old 3 pence, or threp coin, some people call it, 3 penny coin. This is the old 3 penny coin right here. There were 80 of these to a British pound. This is the old 6 pence coin from 1967. There were 40 of these to a British pound. And here's the old famous British 1 penny coin, where we get the United States term 1 penny. This is Britannia seated with a trident, lighthouse behind her, waves in front of her, 1967. 240 of these to the pound. So back to these, we made a much different 20 and then 10. And how many of these to the pound? Well, that's a good question. But how many of these to the dollar? 4. So 4 of these to the U.S. dollar. And so 1968, they were worth $4 to a dollar in 1968. They're worth $4 to a dollar now, but they're not worth any more than that, really. If you want to take a look and make sure you can tell the cladding, you just tip it up on the edge, and you can see the copper coming through from 1965 on. Now, there are some silver coins that were made, but not in 1968. So keep looking. Have a good day from DC Coin World International Coin Channel.